For Creamer Media's Polity, I'm Mutsabi Hwayani. Today we are at the Mapungubwe Institute of Strategic Reflections to discuss the role of platinum group metals and the opportunities stemming from South Africa's endowment of these strategic resources. What prompted Mistra to conduct this in-depth research into the potential of platinum group metals and the global hydrogen economy in South Africa?
The main report that really piqued our interest in this research came out in 2010, and it was commissioned by the Citibank, US multinational, and it was based on an analysis of global mineral reserves, and it found that South Africa was the most well endowed, at least in terms of the wealth value of its mineral resources. And it attributed 90% of those riches to the country's platinum group metals reserves. It was clear then that one wanted to see how South Africa could translate that value into meaningful benefit for the country. So we then set on to look at the options throughout the value chain of how the country could maximize the benefits around that endowment.
What role do PGMs currently play in South African society and its economy?
Okay, so PGM, let's take the automotive sector. The quoting of catalytic converters is responsible or accounts for more than 50% of the foreign exchange income or revenues from the automotive components. Now, that's a lot of money coming from basically our competency in supplying catalytic converter markets. We account for about 15% of the catalytic converter industry globally. So 1 in 7 cars around the road would have been supplied with a catalytic converter that's been coated in South Africa with platinum group metals. That's just the main, but there are many other supporting industries around that cluster, that create jobs. And so it's playing a very crucial role in terms of income from the sector.
What does the study tell us about how South Africa could position itself to benefit from the emergence of a so-called hydrogen economy?
It tells us a number of things, and mainly they are around the importance to build the necessary competencies to be able to leverage the benefits associated with the transition to the hydrogen economy. So what we found was a number of countries are already doing quite a bit of research, substantially more than South Africa is, at least in terms of the quantum of resources, the people, the level of training around fuel cells and the hydrogen economy. People are demonstrating prototypes, fuel cell transportation systems, and therefore building the competencies around supporting such capabilities. And therefore South Africa would need to position itself accordingly if it were to at least retain its position. If you take the catalytic converter industry, was supplying 15% of the global autocatalytic markets. If you want to retain that level of market share, you would need to ramp up your investments in, around fuel cells related technologies.
Your research suggests that the knowledge linkages of PGMs are important for extracting the full benefits for South Africa. What are these linkages and how can they be developed?
Okay, I'll start with how the research came up with this argument. And that was based on a patent and journal publications analysis. So we looked at databases of journal publications, peer-reviewed journal publications around platinum group metals, inclusive of fuel cells. And so the researchers looked at the top 500 most cited research publications on fuel cells technologies. And what you find there is a global map that shows Europe, Asia, and North America. Africa is invisible in that atlas of the knowledge networks. So these would have been authors that cite one another, and it shows the geography of those authors. And you can see that Africa is invisible. And in fact, publications are an indication of knowledge and prospects for innovation and patents as well, prospects for commercialization. And to the extent that Africa doesn't show up significantly, at least, it is likely to lose out on the benefits, whereas in fact it is most well endowed, with the raw materials. You see a scenario where the continent continues to export raw materials which are value added overseas because we do not have the competencies. And those are the knowledge linkages that really emerge out of this study.
Okay. And how can they be developed?
Oh yes, it's about investment in the skills, the necessary skills. It's about investment in the necessary capabilities. You've got to begin tinkering with these devices and technologies. You've got to not just do them in the lab, but take them out into the street and demonstrate the applications and experiment around with them and test the market for them, test the ability of our current standards to actually enable the absorption and develop those standards accordingly if that is not the case. So it's all out there. These are long lead activities, so you need to start investing soonest, because of course you have to have those people who have went into the maths and sciences, which is already a challenge in South Africa, and also ensure that those people get into the engineering careers, at least once they are done with their school, their education. The technicians are necessary. So there's a lot of training that becomes necessary, but also demonstration activities, large-scale projects out there.
You also argue that an investment in PGM-related skills and capabilities is not only urgent, but a low-risk investment. Why do you say this?
It's certainly urgent because it takes time to train someone to become competent, in a field. And particularly with these sophisticated technologies, it takes so much longer. You then have to make sure that they practice in the industry and therefore have to develop the related market, or otherwise people go elsewhere to practice those skills. But the investment is also low risk because the basic sciences and engineering are subjects that are in demand in other industries. There's a lack of such skills, and they are therefore translatable, to the other industries. If you are an expert in membranes, which is a component of one of the fuel cells technologies, you can use that competency in water treatment technologies because you know the basic science of it. So it's really low risk. You cannot go wrong with investing in people and those types of capabilities because they are in such high demand, that they will, get employable anywhere, in the economic sectors.
That was Dr. Vela Pimsimang discussing the importance of South Africa fulfilling a responsible role in the stewardship of platinum group metals.